So welcome back to the channel, guys. It is me, 8744. So today, guys, I'm going to give you guys my November recap, and there's a lot to unpack here. So get your popcorn ready, get your meals, guys, get your drinks ready, because there's so much to unpack here. We have so much discussing, so much interesting discussion points to have. And like I said, guys, it's going to be very exciting. So let's start with the first league we got here. It is Liverpool. Liverpool, at the time recording this video, they're now 11 points clear of Manchester City, and Liverpool just looking like in cruise control. And you have to give a lot of credit to Arne Slot here for what he's been able to manage to make this Liverpool team into arguably one of the best teams in Europe this season. I mean, the way they're attacking, the way Salah's been amazing, and the defense has been money. I mean, people talk about how good Salah's been this season, and rightfully so. Salah's been amazing, but you got to give a lot of credit to the defense. Gravenberch has been amazing. Konate, Van Dijk have been so good, probably the best center back partnership in the world. Then Keller has been amazing, even deputizing for Allison. Then Connor Bradley's been revelation. And I think the only weak spot Liverpool have is probably Robertson. I don't think Robertson's been that great in the defense. But other than that, I mean, Liverpool just so solid. And you have to give credit to what Arne Slot's done in his first season to get this Liverpool team in this position. I believe I read this somewhere. Correct me if I'm in the comments below if I'm wrong with this. I believe this is the best start Liverpool have had with Liverpool best start they've had in a long time. I think the only other time they had a better start than this was in the 19-20 season, in which we all know they won the league that season. And the first half of the season, they only drew one game, which was the Man United 1-1 at Old Trafford. And this team looks very much like the 1920 team. Now, is this team better than 1920? Of course not. I'm taking Fabinho over Gravenberch. I'm taking Sadio Mane. I'm taking Firmino over Diaz and Gakpo. And I think the only issue for this Liverpool team is the striker position, because I feel like the striker isn't very elite. And that's my problem, because I feel like Darwin Núñez, he is a good player, but I don't think he's a reliable goal scorer. And I think Gakpo is kind of like a decent player at best, but I don't think he's like that amazing. So I think that's going to be the key thing for Liverpool, is that Liverpool looking so good. Now, is the title over, guys? It's not over. It's only in December, guys. We still have a lot of the season to go. Although Liverpool up at this was in a very good position. I think that's very, very key. Because right now, I'm interested to see how Liverpool approaches the second half of the season, because the second half is going to be critical. And you know what's going to really tell me Liverpool's going to win this league is that what happens in January, what happens in February, because those 2 months are going to be critical, as well as December month as well, because we know the December period is quite hectic. December period is a lot of games for Liverpool. And I'm looking at Liverpool's next couple of games. I could see them picking up a lot of points there. I think they play Newcastle, they play Everton, and they should be winning those games. And I think for Liverpool, the key thing for them now is to build on this good momentum. And what I'm going to be interested to see what happens to Liverpool is how they react to adversity, how they react if a big player gets injured, because that's what also is very key as well, is that what if a big player gets injured? Because for me, if one of these three players get injured, it could really harm Liverpool's season. Van Dijk, Salah, and Gravenberch. I would say these are the three most integral players for Liverpool. If any of those three players go down, how will Liverpool respond? Because for me, that's going to be the key thing for Liverpool, is that how are they going to deal with that adversity, with those injuries? Because Liverpool have a lot of injuries right now as we speak. And also, how are they going to react if they have a bad run of form? Will they be able to continue? That's the thing. Because in a league, it's about how you. It's not how you start. It's how you finish, and that's the key thing. And that's where Liverpool have to be very cautious, because this first half of the season has been amazing, and Liverpool are generally good in the first half of the season for a couple of seasons right now. It's the second half of the season they usually implode or they usually underperform. And that's where we're going to see if Liverpool have won this league. So the league isn't over. Even though I know it's 11 points deficit, I still think Manchester City have what it takes. And speaking of Manchester City, let's look at them. It's a little up for Manchester City. It is now 7 games in a row now where Manchester City haven't won a game. This is uncharacteristic. This is uncharted territory for Manchester City. And they had probably arguably one of the worst ever loss of the manager, losing 4-0 at home to Tottenham. I mean, with all due respect, it's Tottenham. I'm sorry, this isn't Milan. This isn't Prime Milan. This isn't Real Madrid. This isn't Barcelona. This isn't Liverpool. This isn't Arsenal. This isn't even Chelsea. To lose 4-0 at home against Spurs is quite shocking. It's quite embarrassing. And maybe let me know in the comments below if I'm wrong with this. This might be one of Pep's biggest L's in his career. There's some other games that come to mind, which I'm not going to get into, but this is definitely one of the biggest L's. Putting that to a side, though, there's something wrong with this Manchester City team. This Manchester City team just looks so completely abject. They completely look so disorganized. They look like they lost their motivation. And I think for Manchester City, what they need to do now is they have to bench those big players that have been underperforming. I'm sorry, Kyle Walker has to get benched. Kyle Walker is finished. And I'm sorry to say, Gundogan's finished too. Gundogan shouldn't be playing for this team anymore. And you got to, and Pep Guardiola, you have to make those big decisions. You have to start benching those big players. And Phil Foden, man, you're a Premier League player of the season last season. You have been awful this season, bro. You have been awful this season. Haaland, you haven't been great either recently. And I think for Manchester, they have to start winning games. And if you look at Manchester's next couple of games, let me just actually show you guys real quick. Let me just actually pull up real quick on my phone. We'll just quickly go through. Manchester City, they have to play Nottingham Forest at home. Now, you'd expect Manchester City to win against Nottingham Forest, although Nottingham Forest has been great so far this season. So you can't that may not be an easy win. Then they got Crystal Palace away. That's also a tricky one. Manchester City are usually struggle against Crystal Palace. That's usually one of their bogey teams. So I would expect Manchester City to win that, though. And then they have the Manchester Derby. And that's going to be telling. That's going to be telling because Manchester United, we'll speak of them in a bit. They've been looking pretty good. But I would still expect Manchester City to beat United. They got Aston Villa away, and then Everton at home, and then Leicester away. So look at these next couple of games for Manchester City. It's not quite two easy games. Although I will say Manchester City should win most of the games. But it'll be interesting to see how Manchester City do with no Rodri. And I think that's a key thing because Rodri absence is really destroying this team because this team just doesn't have an out-and-out replacement for Rodri. There's no one on Rodri's caliber on this team as on the same profile. And I think for what Manchester needs to do is they have to switch formations. Enough of this 3-4-2-1. Try the 4-3-3. And you have to get players like KDB involved. I don't know why KDB has not been playing much. I would expect by now KDB to be fully fit. You got to start playing like Doku and bench the players like Savio, bench players like Grealish. And I think it's going to be very key for Manchester. So we'll see how Manchester City respond because, like I said, guys, it's a very uncharacteristic. And the more Manchester City struggle, the more Liverpool can capitalize, the more Liverpool can build a lead on before the January month hits. So for Manchester City, man, it's looking very peak. But like I said before, guys, don't count on Manchester City because I know everyone's laughing at their downfall right now. Everyone is drinking their tears. Everyone is having fun. But Pep Guardiola can still win this league. Manchester City can still win this league, guys. And if Manchester City do 5 in a row from this position, we're going to have to ask a lot of questions. And we're going to have a very uncomfortable video at the end of the season. And Liverpool, Arsenal fans, maybe even Chelsea fans, you better not let that happen. You better not let that happen. But we'll see as time goes on. That's why I'm very careful with how much that's why we have to be very careful how we talk about City. Moving to Arsenal. Arsenal, fantastic. Fantastic. They finally got some wins, back-to-back wins under their belt after having a disastrous October month. With Odegaard back at the helm, Arsenal looking great. And you can see, and I've said this before, guys, I'm continuing to say this again, Odegaard is Arsenal's best player. I appreciate Bukayo Saka, and I think Bukayo Saka is an amazing player. He's obviously amazing. He's probably the second best player. The reason why I place Odegaard higher is because Odegaard, I feel like, just offers you. I just feel like he's more well-rounded. I feel like Odegaard, he's more, he's got more vision in his game. He's also the captain of the team as well, brings that leadership factor. And without Odegaard, you saw how bad they were without Odegaard. And I feel like with Odegaard, Arsenal just looks so amazing. And I really do feel like Arsenal need Odegaard at his best. And I think Odegaard's key with those big wins. The wins against West Ham, and then the wins, the big win against Nottingham Forest. So I think for Arsenal, it's good for them to get back-to-back wins. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. And I'm looking at Arsenal's next couple of games just real quickly right here. Arsenal, let's see who they got. Just pulling up this right here. So they got Manchester United on Wednesday. That's going to be a big game. Then they got Fulham, Everton, Crystal Palace, and Ipswich. And yeah, I mean, Arsenal pretty much have an easy set of games. Basically, besides the United game, every other game is pretty winnable, I would say. And yeah, I would expect Arsenal to get probably maximum points this month, I would assume. So shout out to Arsenal. And like I said, guys, let's see if they can continue their run. Although they are 9 points behind Liverpool, so they're going to have a lot of catching up to do. See what happens there. And then Chelsea, man. Chelsea, fantastic. Chelsea are looking amazing. And I think it's fair to say that Chelsea are are definitely going to make the top four. I think Chelsea have put themselves in a position that we're going to make top four. Now, can they mount a title charge? Now, that I think is a bridge too far. I have seen some Chelsea fans say that we can't push for a title, which I think is a bit too blasphemous and a bit too outrageous. But at the same time, though, given how Manchester City have been struggling and given how Arsenal have kind of just about got in form, Chelsea are only level on points with Arsenal. So who's to say they can't? But I do expect Chelsea will have a drop-off. I do expect Chelsea will struggle at some point. And I do think Chelsea, what's going to let Chelsea down is the defense. I think the defense is going to be Chelsea's biggest letdown because I think for Chelsea, what's been incredible is like Caicedo. Caicedo's been fantastic. I think Cole Palmer's been great. I think Nico Jackson's been fiery. And I think that's a key thing for Chelsea. Even Enzo Fernandez has been popping up recently as well. So you've got to give credit to Maresca there. So it'll be interesting to see how Chelsea do. But I don't think Chelsea can mount for a title charge. I think it's a bridge too far. They don't have enough experience, enough. I don't think their squad is also well-rounded as other teams. But I definitely think they're going to get top. And I think top 4 for Chelsea will be a great achievement. So looking at the league table right here, as you can see right here, guys, this is the Premier League stands right here. So Liverpool 34, Arsenal 25, Chelsea 25, and Brighton 23, and Manchester City 5th. So as you can see, Brighton and Nottingham Forest are overperforming. Spurs 20 points, Brentford and United. So United are slowly starting to edge back their way. United have had 2 good wins this month. Obviously they beat Everton 4-0, and then they beat obviously Leicester City. So for United, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And then obviously Spurs being very inconsistent as usual. They beat City and then they tied at home to Fulham. So it'll be interesting to see how the Premier League table pans out. But if I had to make a guess, I would probably assume that 5th place will probably be. I might give it to Man United. Although I'm very skeptical there. I'll give 6th Spurs, and I'll say 7th is going to be Newcastle. Newcastle, I think, will finish 7th place. But honestly, at this rate, 5th and 7th is so hard to call that any of the teams can make it through. So as you can see, I have put the games you guys should look forward to. Let me just move my webcam real quick. These are the games that I think are going to be the interesting games we have in December. So you got Arsenal, Man United, that's coming up on Wednesday, obviously. Then Tottenham, Chelsea, I believe that's next weekend. And then Man City, Man United, that's the Manchester Derby, and the Tottenham, Liverpool, I believe it's like towards the end of this year. So these are the 4 games that I'm most excited for and to look forward to. So it will be interesting to see what happens. Let's move to the next thing. Barcelona, man. It's now 3 games in a row. We haven't won a game. And this is something where we kind of should have seen this coming. Because at some point, your good run of form is going to end. And this always happens. Every single time a team goes through a good run of form, they always get a bad run of form. I mean, just look at Man City for example. Barcelona, man, it's looking very bad. And I think the key thing for Barca we have to keep in mind is that Yamal hasn't played a lot of these games. Yamal was obviously rested against Real Sociedad, and Yamal was obviously rested against Celta Vigo, and Yamal did only play like 45 minutes against Las Palmas. So Yamal has not played much of the 3 games. And I think the key thing for this Barca team, what we're starting to realize, is that we need more goal scorers this team. Because Rafinha has been amazing. Rafinha, I think, has been fantastic. He's been sensational. I believe he scored 2 of the 3 games. So you can't criticize Rafinha. But the issue is Lewandowski. And this is the problem with Lewandowski. And I think this is very true. And I don't know if you guys agree with this. It's either Lewandowski has a really good game or a really bad game. I don't think there's anything in between. And that's the problem with Lewandowski at his age, is that if he doesn't get a goal, it's going to be a bad performance. And that's the problem with Lewandowski, is just that I either see a very good performance or a very bad performance. I don't really see anything between. And that's the huge problem for this Barca team, is that we're struggling with that attack, because Rafinha has been amazing, but the other players haven't stepped up. Like, Dani Olmo, he's been good, obviously, but he hasn't really played a lot since he's injured. Since he has a lot of injury concerns. Then obviously Fermin Lopez isn't been that great. Then obviously Paul Victor, and Yamal, and so I think the key thing for Barca is the midfield, and obviously, we didn't have Caicedo against Las Palmas, which probably could have prevented some of those goals that we conceded, because we conceded from such a bad position. So I think that's also another thing, is that we have to improve our discipline as well. Caicedo is very important, and what happens if Caicedo goes down? And I think another thing we're also seeing is that Barca just don't have great squad depth. We just don't have great squad depth, because without Yamal, this attack just doesn't look as same. Now, I don't want to say we're Yamal FC, because I feel like that is not fair. That's disingenuous. But I will say this, though, that he is so important to his team. He's such an amazing player. He's so dynamic. He's so creative that it really does. It's weird, because I don't want to say we're relying on him, but he is such a huge asset. I think I'm going to put it this way. And I think for Barca, we have to see how the back line pans out, because obviously with Balde being injured, we have to play Martin Guy. And I'm sorry, that Martin Guy is abysmal. And then now with Barca being injured, we're gonna have to play Araujo, and he just came back from injury. So I don't know, man. Barca's back line's looking tough. And if you look at the next couple of Barca games, man, we got some tough games coming. We got Mallorca away, and Real Betis, and then I think we got Leganes, and then Atletico Madrid. So Three of those 4 games are going to be tough. The only easy game we got there is Leganes at home, but as we just saw with Las Palmas, we thought we were going to beat Las Palmas. So you can't take anything for granted. So we'll see how Barca recovers from this, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. Moving to Real Madrid. Real Madrid, man, after that El Clasico humiliation, everybody said, oh, Real Madrid's not going to win this league. Real Madrid's not going to win this league. It's done. It's over. Real Madrid are going to go trophyless and everything like that. And that's the beauty with the league, is that everything, like, there's still a lot of matches to go. And I think for Real Madrid, the key thing for them is Mbappe. How is he going to pan? Because I think that's a key thing for Real Madrid this season and for them to win La Liga. Will Mbappe will Mbappe score those amount of goals? Because to basically win a league, you have to stat pad. And that's the thing, essentially, is that will Mbappe be stat padding in every single game? Because that's the problem with him. Because the problem is Mbappe just hasn't really delivered in the goal scoring sense. He hasn't been as clinical as you expect him to be. But here's the thing, though. He's starting to improve. And I think you could tell that Mbappe is starting to improve his decision making, his dribbling, as we just saw against Getafe. I think he had that was a great game from him. It's just that he didn't score more goals. And I think for Mbappe, the key thing is how he pan out. And also, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how he also does. And obviously, with the absence of Vinicius Jr., Mbappe is going to have to take a lot of the shoulder. He's going to have to be the main guy now, essentially, for now, until Vinny gets back. And when Vinny gets back, Mbappe got to be on the side there, because Vinny's the main guy. Vinny's the main guy. Jude's obviously not had a great season, but he's now starting to get into form. I think Valverde, for me, has probably been Real Madrid's most consistent player this season. I think he's been fantastic. He's such an amazing player. He's such a tenacious midfielder, such a hardworking midfielder. He's so important to this team. So shout out to Valverde. And yeah, I mean, for Real Madrid, as I said, as underwhelming as they have been this season, they're only 1 point behind Barca with the game in hand. So we'll see how everything pans out for Real Madrid. Because like I said, Real Madrid, you bet you win either La Liga or the Champions League this season. Because if not, we're having an emergency stream that happens. Because that would be quite a travesty if you don't win either of the two trophies. Especially with this insane squad you have. Yeah, Carlo, I'm going to have to ask you serious questions. Now, for Atletico Madrid, Julian Alvarez, man, he's starting to finally get into good form. He's starting to finally get into good form, and I think the key thing for Alvarez is time. And a lot of people are critical about him at first and say, oh, look, Julian Alvarez has scored so many goals. He's only scored like 1 goal in 4 games. Look at this, man. Julian Alvarez has been fantastic. He's been such an amazing player, and he's been so key to Atletico Madrid. Now, my problem with Atletico Madrid is that this is how I feel. They either barely scrape a win, or they smash a team, or they just drop points. And that's the thing with Atletico Madrid. They're not a consistent team, because even though Atletico Madrid have been great so far this season, they're only, I believe, 1 point behind Real Madrid. 1 or 2 points behind Real Madrid. We'll check the league table in a bit. Atletico Madrid are just scraping by. And that's the problem with Atletico Madrid, is that they're not dominating. They're not getting dominant wins every single game. In fact, most of the games this season have been very scrappy wins. And another reason why I worry for Atletico Madrid is that their away form is quite shaky. Their away form is unpredictable. And I said this before, and we'll continue this again. Their home form is like peak Jose Mourinho. Their away form is like, I don't know, maybe like the Sheffield United. That's how inconsistent they are. Like, they're so good at home, but they're not great away. And that's the problem with Atletico Madrid, is that they have to start getting those. They have to start being consistent throughout the season if they want to win this league title. And I think they have what it takes. I think they can do this, but I do expect a drop off. And when is that drop off going to be? I don't know. It'll probably be the second half of the season, and that's going to be interesting. So looking at the league table right here, guys, as you can see, Barcelona is 34 points, Real Madrid is 33, and Atletico Madrid is 32. So keep in mind, Atletico Madrid is only 2 points behind Real Madrid. 1 point behind Real Madrid. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens. And I think we could very evidently tell that it's going to be a 3-horse. It could potentially be a 3-horse race. Barca, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid. And the key thing is Atletico Madrid have a game in hand. Real Madrid have a game in hand. And see, these are some of the critical games that I highlighted here in the calendar. So you can see right here, Atletico will play against Real Madrid. That's a game that's going to take place on Wednesday. Barca will play against Atletico Madrid. That will be late December. And then Barca against Barca and Real Betis Barca. So this month is a very difficult month for Barca, because essentially we have 3 of the 4 games that are going to be difficult for us. And I think that's going to be very defining for Barca, how many points we're going to pick up this month. Because we need to pick up, especially after having a disastrous November. And Serie A, man, the most exciting league in the world. McTominay, man. And McTominay, Lukaku, the former EPL players, are playing so well in the Serie A. And if Napoli can win the Serie A with Antonio Conte, that will be a very interesting narrative. And we're gonna have to have a very interesting narrative. We're gonna have a very interesting stream that happens because McTominay and Lukaku help inspire Napoli to win a Scudetto. We have to have very interesting combos. And because the thing was with Lukaku, Lukaku looks so amazing because Lukaku is so good under Antonio Conte. And I think the key thing for Napoli is, are they going to keep up this good run of form? Because it's all good and all doing the first half of the season, but the second half of the season is where you're going to really see the true character. And I think for Napoli in particular, you're starting to see that this team is just about doing the bare minimum. They're just doing this just by one goal margins, one goal margin, one goal margin, one goal margin, and that just shows how much spirit they have, how much courage they have, how much fight they have to win their games 1-0. And I'm interested to see how will that be able to last an entire season. I don't know. If I had to make a guess, I'll probably say no. But with Antonio Conte, you can never rely on him in a league campaign because league-wise, he's very good. He's one of the best managers in terms of league campaigns. So it'll be interesting to see what he could do in Napoli, and if he could get Napoli to win the Scudetto, that could be huge for his legacy. Atalanta, man. I mean, this team, man. If they win the Serie A this season, Gasperini has to get the manager of the season award, 100%. This will be an incredible achievement. If Atalanta could win the Serie A, that would be such a big story. I would even argue this would be better than Leverkusen. Because Leverkusen always been a good team in Germany. They've always been a team that's always nearly missed out. Atalanta, this is a team that's only just come up in the recently from the rise. This is a team that's not has as much history as Leverkusen. If Atalanta wins the Serie A, Gasperini has to be built a statue. You have to make the statue. And if Atalanta can win the Serie A, Ademola Lookman, Retegui, Ederson, Scalvani, a lot of these players are going to get big moves. And I'm going to be very interested to see how Atalanta do because this team is just playing such a good, scintillating football. Their attack is so deadly. The only issue I have with Atalanta is they're not consistent. That's the thing. But if Atalanta can improve the consistency, win the games that they should be winning, and get those big plague and get those results against the top teams, who's to say they can't win the league? And given how open the Serie A is this season, I think this might be a great chance for Atalanta to win the Scudetto. And I think they have a very good opportunity to do so. So I'm really hoping they do, and I think it'll be a great footballing story. I'm hoping they will. Will they? Most likely not, but it would be some kind of story if they do. So we'll see if Atalanta can deliver. The Inter, man. Inter. The defending Scudetto champions won 5-0 away against Hellas Verona. 5 goals in the first half, and that wasn't even their best team. They had to rotate in that game. And the fact that Inter is doing so well is amazing. Thuram is looking great. Then the only two things that are a bit concerning for Inter this season. Lautaro Martinez just doesn't feel the same as last season. Remember how we were talking about Lautaro being one of the best players in the world and maybe potentially a Ballon d'Or shout? Well, this season, he just hasn't been firing. I don't know what's up with Lautaro this season. He just doesn't seem the same as last season. And that's very concerning for Inter in particular there because if they really want to win the Serie A this season, I think Lautaro has to be in top form. Because as good as Thuram is, and Thuram is a fantastic player, you need more than Thuram to win the league title. And I think Lautaro Martinez has to start getting into that kind of form like he did last season for Inter to win the Scudetto. Another thing is that Inter defensively just don't look the same as they were last season. Inter have been conceding a lot more chances, have been conceding a lot more goals this season than last season, and I think that's a bit of a concern. So I'm hoping that if Inter can fix up their defense and fix up the Lautaro thing, I think they're the favorites to win Scudetto because remember, they're the defending Serie A champs. They've won this before last season, and I feel like of all the teams, they're the best team in Serie A. But like I said, just because they're the best team doesn't mean they'll always win. So let's see what Inter does in the December month. But yeah, Inter, man, don't rule out Inter. The Juventus, man. Juventus. You know what's weird with Juventus, guys? They've had more draws than wins, and they're still undefeated. Imagine going undefeated and losing the league. You know how crazy that is? You know how mad that sounds? Like, you know how crazy that is? Like, how do you go undefeated and still lose the league? It's crazy to me. Like, that just is so mind-boggling for me. And that's the thing with this Juventus team is that their defense, the midfield is fantastic. I really like Gregor's goalkeeper. I think has been great. Kolu's been fantastic. I think Bremer's been great. I think the Danilo's been great as well. I think Coop Miners, I think Douglas Luiz have been great. Kepa and Thuram has been great. It's just the issue for Juve is the attack. The attack is the biggest issue for this Juventus team because they just don't have a reliable goal scorers as a team. Like Vlahovic is inconsistent. Weah is not that consistent. Yildiz is inconsistent. Juve just don't have a very good attacking line, and that's where I worry for Juve is that they could score goals, but they can only score one goal. And that's the problem is that you can't be scoring one goal in every game. You need to be scoring like you got to be getting wins. And just yesterday, guys, they almost got the win against I think it was Lecce. Then they conceded a last minute goal to Lecce. So like this is the thing for Juventus is that they have to address the squad depth, and also I think that's a key thing for Juventus because if you look at the bench yesterday, they had like 2 goalkeepers on their bench, and like mostly players that were coming on or players that weren't really that like well known. So for Juventus, they have to improve the squad depth if they want to win the Scudetto. Because I understand they have a lot of injuries right now at the moment. I understand Diego Motta is having to go through so much, but this is kind of problematic though. Like you're 6th right now in the Serie A. That's crazy. And being undefeated is crazy for me. So we'll see if Juventus can pick their form up in December, if they can climb all the way back up to the top 4, because they have what it takes to challenge for Scudetto, and I think they have. They can challenge. It's just the problem is, will the lack of squad depth be Juve's downfall? And will Diego Motta, being the inexperienced manager he is for the title race, will that come back to bite him? And will the Juve's lack of quality up front also come back to bite him? We shall see. At the Milan, man, Milan is such an inconsistent team because after beating Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, you would think, okay, Milan are back, right? Well, they tied against Cagliari. Then they tied against Juventus, and then they beat Empoli 3-0. That's the thing with Milan is that they'll give you a win, then they'll give you a draw, and like they're just not a consistent team. And I think that's the thing for Milan this season is that they've been good in the big games. I'll give you that. Like they defeated Inter. They got a draw against Juve. They defeated Real Madrid. The only big games they've been awful in was the Napoli game and the Liverpool game. Milan, for me, the big issue with them is their defense is so sketchy. Their defense is very, very vulnerable. Tomori's not been that great. I think that's been a problem. And I just think for Milan in particular, they have to improve the defense if they want to challenge for Scudetto. Because they have what it takes. They have the personnel. They have the players. It's just that they're just too inconsistent, which is why I don't think they can win the Scudetto this season. So looking at the league table right here, guys, as you can see, Napoli is currently first, although it's still very tight. Atalanta, Inter, Fiorentina, Lazio, Juve. You have literally 4 teams that are level on the same amount of points. So, like, you know how crazy that is, guys. This Serie A title race could be won for the ages. I'm going to keep a very close eye on this one. And if you guys aren't doing this, man, you got to be staying tuned to Serie A. Serie A has been popping off, guys. Serie A title race this season could be won for the ages. And look out for these games, guys. The highlights some of the games you should guys look out for the month of December. Atalanta, Milan, I believe, is this Friday. Napoli, Lazio, Inter, Lazio, Atalanta, Milan, Roma, and Juventus, Fiorentina. And keep in mind, guys, Inter, Fiorentina, Milan, and Bologna, all 4 of which have games in hand. So that could make the table very, very interesting. All right, let's move on over to the Bundesliga, man. Harry Kane, man. Harry Kane scored a hat-trick against Augsburg. And I think for Bayern, they're finally realizing that Harry Kane has been performing. I think Harry Kane's put himself in great positions. And I think Harry Kane's been amazing. Now, the question for Bayern, though, is how long is Harry Kane going to be out for? Because remember, Harry Kane got a big injury against, obviously, Dortmund. So how long is he going to be out for? Now, according to the time of recording this video, I'm actually just checking the foot mob. He is going to be out till the rest of this month. So basically, Bayern will not have him for the next couple of games. Although the Bundesliga, they don't have that many games in the month of December. I think there's only like 3 games. So I think Bayern should be fine. But yeah, I'll be interested to see who steps up in his absence. I would assume Muller will have absence. And I think the key thing for Bayern is they have to address the wingers. I think the only thing that's letting Bayern down this season is the wingers, because I'm sorry. Leroy Sané, he's mediocre. He's garbage. I don't rate the guy. I think he's better as a super sub. Vincent Kompany, you have to give Elise more opportunities because I think Elise is clearly better. I think Coman also deserves more opportunities as well. And I think that's the only thing Bayern's really lacking is the wingers depth. And I think for Bayern, I think they put themselves in a great position to win the Bundesliga. But now my question is, how will they do in the Champions League? Because that's where the question for Bayern is going to truly stand, is that how will they do in the Champions League? Because that's going to be interesting. Remember, Bayern's still undefeated after that draw against Dortmund on the weekend, where Musiala scored an 84th minute goal. Neuer's been great, man. Bayern kept 7 clean sheets in a row, which is fantastic. Then Frankfurt, man. If Frankfurt could win the Bundesliga, it would be an amazing achievement. Omar Marmoush has to be built a statue if that happens. because Frankfurt are looking so good. Guys, it's crazy. They're actually second place right now in the Bundesliga. You know how crazy that is? 4 points behind. Frankfurt have been amazing. I would be very happy if Frankfurt would win the Bundesliga. You know how big that would be for Omar Marmoush in particular, but let's be realistic here, guys. I don't think Frankfurt's going to win the Bundesliga this season. This team just has enough quality compared to Bayern. And I feel like for Frankfurt, it's the bridge too far. But if they do manage to do it, that'll be an incredible achievement, and I'll be very happy to see. But I just don't see it happening. And shout out to Leverkusen. Even though Leverkusen are 7 points behind, they're still undefeated in the month of November. Only one loss so far in the Bundesliga, which was to obviously RB Leipzig at home. But other than that, Bayer Leverkusen have been pretty good. But the issue for Bayer Leverkusen, it feels, is that they either win the games by a big margin or they just don't kill away the opposition and allow the opposition to get back. Because the problem with this Leverkusen team is that this team isn't as consistent as last season. You could tell that this team doesn't have the same kind of like motivation as last season. And I think the key thing, and I think people aren't really talking about this, but to defend a league title, it's about because defending a league title is far more impressive than winning a league title. Because defending a league title means you have to go through grips and there's expectations, right? And I think for Leverkusen, I think the fans are having so high expectations that Leverkusen haven't been able to meet. And I think Leverkusen are kind of more down to earth this season. They haven't scored a lot of late winners this season. They haven't been the same. So for Leverkusen, I definitely think they'll get top four. Their squad is way too good not to get top four. But can they mount a title charge? I think they can. I think they can still push for the title. But ultimately, I don't think they'll win the title. I think it's going to Bayern. Then obviously Leipzig. Leipzig is just absolutely abysmal, man. After going literally undefeated until the Dortmund game, they were fantastic. But then after the Dortmund game, they have basically collapsed. They haven't won a game since then. I believe they lost to Dortmund. I think they tied at Gladbach, and then they just got thrashed at home by Wolfsburg. And with all due respect, this is Wolfsburg at home. RB Leipzig, man, this team just are so defensively abysmal. This team just concedes way too many chances, and their attack is just not that potent. And I think they're really missing Danny Olmo. And I think Danny Olmo is such a big blow because the only reliable goal scorer they have is Openda. That's the truth of the matter because Tolson I don't think is reliable. Xavi Simons is a great player. I think he's really good at dribbling, really good at quality, but he's just not a goal scorer. And that's the problem is that Leipzig are just lacking the goal scorer threats. And Sesko, he's just not been firing recently. Sesko has really not been firing. I think that's the problem for Leipzig is that if they want to push for a title charger, which I think they have enough the players and personnel to do so. It's just the problem is they're just not consistent enough, and that's the problem. So for Leipzig, man, it's looking rough for them. And then for Dortmund, they're good home team guys. Dortmund are good at home. It's just their away record isn't this home. Away from home, these guys are jokes. But Dortmund are really good at home. I have to give them that credit. And they had to beat RB Leipzig and to hold Bayern to a draw is very respectable. But at the same time, though, this is a team that have also lost to Mainz. With also respect, it's Mainz. So for Dortmund, as I said, let's see if they can get top four this season. Because after missing out the top four last season, they have to get top four this season. Because I don't think they're making the Champions League final this season. So looking at the league table right here, guys, as you can see, Bayern are first right now with 30 points. Frankfurt 26, Leverkusen 23, and Leipzig 21, and Dortmund 20. So Dortmund have closed the gap down, but although Dortmund are still outside the top four, and you can see the rest of the league right there. And I also highlighted some important games to look out for this month. We got Leipzig versus Frankfurt, and Leipzig versus Frankfurt, and Bayern versus RB Leipzig. Two of the games to look out for. All right, so now let's go look at the kind of wrap things up here, guys. So these are some of the title big games you guys should look out for outside the top 5 leagues. I've tried to pick some here. I also picked some of the title races you guys should keep a close eye upon. So we got Aberdeen, Celtic. Celtic are only 3 points behind. Celtic are only 3 points behind Aberdeen. Aberdeen are pushing really good this season. Besiktas, Fenerbahce. Obviously, we have the Fenerbahce Galatasaray title race in Turkey. Hajduk Rijeka. Believe it or not, guys, Dinamo Zagreb aren't even top 2 in their league. They're third right now as we speak. So maybe we'll have a Hajduk split Rijeka title race. Club Brugge, Genk. Genk, I believe, are 4 points clear in the Belgian league. The PSV Feyenoord, PSV, I believe, are 5 points clear. Although I actually have a game in hand. Sporting Benfica is going to be big with obviously Sporting Ruben Amorim leaving, of course. Sporting just lost a reverse game yesterday. First home game on Saturday. And I would keep an eye on the following title races because Austria is looking good, man. Salzburg is looking bad, but Storm Graz is looking good. And I think Austria Wien is looking good. And then Greece, the title race is quite insane. You got AEK Athens, Panathinaikos. You got Yeah, those teams competing, man. So the Greece one is probably the most interesting because you have like four genuine teams competing for the title. But anyways, that's gonna be pretty much be about it for today's video, guys. Hope you guys did enjoy this recap. Let me know what you guys think of the comments below. And yeah, I'll see you guys later, man. Peace out.